Algorithm is a set of instructions. In the computer world, there are voluminous data which computers have to deal with. Hence, there must be instructions that will tell them on what to do to produce results. And these instructions are called algorithm. Concept of algorithm. Define the inputs. Inputs are data to be processed. Find the variables. Variables are used to store information to be referenced and manipulated. Outline the operations. Operations are action or process to be carried out to accomplish a task. Output the results. Output is the data generated after the series of operations. Concept of flowchart. In computer programming, it is helpful to organize how you solve a problem before writing it in a code. This can be done using either algorithms, which was explained in the previous lesson, or using flowchart. Flowchart is a diagram that uses special symbols representing an algorithm or process. These are the basic flowchart symbols. Terminal. It indicates the start or end of a flowchart. Next, preparation, initialization. It is used to prepare or initialize variables. Input, output. It is used to take input from or display output on. Process. It represents arithmetic instruction or any data manipulation. Decision. It represents a decision point such as yes or no, or true or false. On-page connector. It is used to connect a remote flowchart portion on the same page. Off-page connector. It is used to connect a remote flowchart portion or another page. Flow lines. It indicates the flow of control. Programming concept. Programming is the implementation of the logical facilitate specified computing operations and functionality. Programming language is a formal language comprising of a set of grammatical rules to instruct a computer in performing a task. There are two types of programming language. One is low-level programming language. There are languages that have a little or not abstraction of programming concept and are very close to machine instructions. Example of these are machine codes and assembly language. The other one is high-level programming language. There are languages that have a very high abstraction of programming concept and are written in a form that is close to human language. Example of these are Java, Visual Basic, Python, and others. Overview of C++. C++ programming language is said to be a combination of high-level and low-level language. Hence, consider a middle-level language. Uses of C++. C++ is one of the primary choices in developing several applications. C++ is used for developing the following: operating systems. Operating systems such as a Microsoft and a few parts of the Apple operating system are developed using C++. Number 2, browser. Browsers such as Google Chrome and Mozilla Firefox, particularly their rendering engines, are developed using C++, simplified because of the speed it offers. Libraries. High-level libraries are also developing using C++. For machine learning libraries such as TensorFlow, C++ is particularly used in the backend because of its speed. Number 4, graphics. In graphics application, fast rendering is requirement, which makes C++ the best choice. Especially, C++ is used in the backend of software that utilize computer vision, digital image processing, and high-end graphical processing. Databases. Databases software are open source database software such as MySQL and Postgres are written in C++. These two popular databases are used in YouTube, Quora, and etc. Number 6. Embedded system. Different embedded systems such as smartwatches are written in C++. The fact that C++ is close to machine codes compared to high-level language. Number 7. Compilers. Most of the compilers such as the compilers of C and Java are also written in C++. Media access. C++ is also used for creating a media player, managing video files and audio files such as Winamp Media Player. Number 9. Cloud distributed system. Cloud storage system or other distributed system also use C++ because it is compatible with several machines. Number 10. Telephone switches. C++ is also widely used in programming telephone switches and routers. Integrated Development Environment or IDE is a software application that provides comprehensive facilities to programmers for software development. There are several IDEs used for C++ programming. The following is: for PC, you can use Dev C++, CodeBlocks, Visual Studio Code, Xcode, Eclipse, or CodeLite. For mobile phones, you can use CPP Droid or CXX Droid for Android, while Mobile C or Textastic Code for iOS. Basic elements of C++. C++ program structure get you started in writing simple C++ programs, such as variables, literals, and data types which you will use in creating C++ programs. C++ program structure. The sample program given presents the basic structure and syntax of a C++ program. Line 1. When you see the hash sign, this means it is a pre-processing directive that is interpreted before the compilation of the program begins. In the given program, the directive include IOStream instructs the processor using the header IOStream to display I love C++ to the screen. IOStream is a precompiled C++ code that handles input and output operations. Line 2. The line using namespace std tells the compiler to use the std namespace. The code is part of the standard library, and all the elements in the standard C++ library are declared within what is called a namespace. The namespace std. When this line is used, you don't need to use std anymore every time you use code. Line 3. White space is the term used to describe blanks, tabs, new line characters, and comments. White space in C++ is totally ignored by the compiler. For this reason, it does not matter where you put a statement in a line. Line 4. The line int main is the special function in all C++ programs where execution begins. Line 5 and line 8, the curly brackets and determine the start and end of a block. A block is in C++ is a set of logically connected statements. Line 6, this line is a single line comment available in C++ which is ignored by the compiler. Single line comment begin with slash and stop at the end of the line. You can use them to include short explanation for observation concerning your program. Line 7. This line is a C++ statement. A statement consists of expressions, functions, operator, or symbols that produce effect in the given statement. Cut means character output, a function in C++ that displays the message within the double quotation marks on the screen. Selection control statement, if statement, if-else statement. Selection control statements are conditional control structure in C++ that are able to select between two or more decision paths and are implemented using if-else, and switch statement. The if statement. The if statement is a single selection statement used in C++ to execute a block of statements only when the condition is true. The syntax is if condition statement, or if the block contains several statements, then the syntax is. Where if is the keyword used to selection control statement, take note that the keyword uses lowercase letter. Condition is the expression that is being evaluated which make use of relational operators. Block of statement is the group of statements that is executed when the condition is true. If the condition is false, the block of statement is ignored. Take a look at the sample code fragment. Assuming that n is equals to 8, then the condition gets true. Hence, the output will be the number is less than 10. Otherwise, the statement will be completed ignored and the output will be the number is more than or equal to 10. The if-else statement. If-else statement is used when there are two conditions. The syntax is where block of statement 1 is the group of statements that is executed in case condition is true. block of statement 2 is the group of statements that is executed in case condition is false. Nested if and if-else statements. Switch statement. Nested if and if-else statements are statements that makes use of if or else if statement inside another if or else if statement. Nested if and if-else statement syntax. The inner if will be executed when condition 1 is true, otherwise the inner if will be ignored. The block of statement in the inner if will be executed when condition 2 is true, otherwise it will be a completely ignored 2. For example, when the code fragment above is evaluated, the string given in the code statement will be displayed since the first and second condition are true. Take note that the operator used in the condition is equal, and not equal. Equal is an assignment operator that is used to assign the value of the variable or expression, while equal is an equal to operator and it is relation operator used for comparison. Switch statement. Switch statement is another selection control statement used in C++. It is used to select one of the block statements to be executed based from the value of the expression when tested in each case. The syntax is: switch is the keyword for the switch statement. Expression is the one that is evaluated and compared with the values of each case. Is the keyword for the case statement. Constant expression must be a constant or a literal that has the same data type with the variable in switch statement. Break is the keyword switch terminates the switch statement and jumps to the statement immediately following the switch. Default is the keyword that is optional, which is used when there is no match from the given cases. The code after the default will then be executed. There is no need to place a break in the default case. For example, when the code fragment is evaluated, let us assume that the value of x is b. The first case will be tested. Since the value of the case which is a does not match the value of the variable x, it goes to the second case. Since the second case matches the value of the variable which is b, then very good will be displayed and jumps to the statement immediately following the switch because of the break statement. The statement following the switch is the code statement, hence done will be displayed. Repetition control statements. 4 statements. Reiteration control statements, otherwise called loop, are statements that are allow repeated execution of block of codes until a particular condition is satisfied. For loop is used when you know exactly the number of times you want to loop through a block of code. The for loop syntax, where initialization is where you declare the initial value of your variable. Condition is where you set the condition which set satisfied. The loop is executed, otherwise the for loop is terminated. Increment, decrement is where you set updates on the value of your variable either in increments or decrements. Flow of execution of for loop. It starts with the initialization of a variable which is executed only once. It then goes to the condition where it is evaluated whether or not it is true or false. If the condition is false, the for loop is terminated. If the condition is true, it executes the block of codes. After every execution of block of code, the increment, decrement part of for loop is executed, which updates the loop counter, after which it goes back to the condition part where it is reevaluated. Take a look at the sample code fragment. The initial value of variable c is 0. Since 0 is less than 3, it goes to the statement within the for loop which prints 0. It then increments the value of c where c becomes 1. Since 1 is still less than 3, it goes to the statement within the for loop which prints 1. It then increments again the value of c where c is now become 2. Since 2 is still less than 3, it goes to the statement within the for loop which prints 2. It then increments again the value of c where c becomes 3. The condition is re-evaluated, and since 3 is not less than 3, the for loop is terminated. and then the output is 0, 1, 2. Nested for loop. A code fragment where for loop is within another for loop. Sample code fragment. In the outer loop, the initial value of variable c is 0. Since 0 is less than 3, the inner loop will be executed. From the inner loop, the initial value of variable c is 0. Since 0 is less than 2, it goes to the statement within the inner loop, which prints 0. It then increments the value of c where c becomes 1. Since 1 is still less than 2, it goes to the statement within the inner loop, which prints 1. It then increments again the value of c, where c now becomes 2. The condition in the inner loop is re-evaluated, and since 2 is not less than 2, the inner loop is terminated. It then goes back to the outer loop where variable c is incremented and now becomes 1. Since 1 is less than 3, the inner loop will be executed and the same process will follow until the condition in the inner loop gets false similarly. The outer loop ends as soon as the condition gets false. The output is 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. While statement. While loop statement is another type of loop statement in C++. It is used only when the number of times you want to loop are not exactly known. While loop syntax, where while is the key word for the while loop statement. Condition is where you set the condition which, when satisfied, the loop is executed, otherwise the while loop is terminated. Block of statements, in the body of the loop that is executed when the condition is met. Notice that in while loop, the initialization and condition checking are done at the top of the loop. On the contrary, if you can recall, in the for loop, the initialization, condition checking, and increment, decrement are written at the top of the loop, which gives a different implication to the flow of execution. Flow of execution of while loop. It starts with the initialization of variable which is executed only once, which is similar to the for loop, and then goes to the condition where it is evaluated whether or not it is true or false. If the condition is false, the while loop is terminated. If the condition is true, it executes the block of statements. The increment, decrement part, which is part of the block of statement when executed, updates the loop counter, after which it goes back to the condition part where it is re-evaluated. Sample code fragment. The initial value of variable c is 0. Since 0 is less than 3, it goes to the statement within the while loop which means 0. It then increments the value of c where c becomes 1. It goes back to the condition where c is re-evaluated. Since 1 is less than 3, it goes again to the statement within the while loop which means 1. It then increments again the value of c, where c now becomes 2. From the condition, since 2 is still less than 3, it goes to the statement within the while loop which prints 2. It then increments again the value of c, where c becomes 3. The condition is evaluated, and since 3 is not less than 3, the while loop is terminated. The output is 0, 1, 2. Nested while loop is another code fragment below where while loop in within another while loop. Sample code fragment. The initial value of variable c is set to 0. From the condition, since 0 is less than 3, the body of the outer loop is executed where the value of the variable r is initialized to 0. From the condition, since r, which is 0, is less than 2, it goes to the statement within the inner loop, which prints 0. It then increments the value of r, where r becomes 1. Since r, which is 1, is still less than 2, it goes to the statement within the inner loop, which prints 1. It then increments again the value of r, where r now becomes 2. The condition in the inner loop is re-evaluated, and since r is 2 is not less than 2, the inner loop is terminated. It then goes to the next statement, just the inner loop, where it prints a new line, and then increments the value of c. The value of c now becomes 1. The same process will follow until the condition in the outer loop gets false. The output is 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. Do-while statement. Do-while loop is another type of loop statement in C++. It is also used to iterate a block-of statement several times. Especially do-while loop is used if the number of iteration is not fixed. The block-of statement is executed at least once since the condition is checked after the block-of statements. Do-while loop syntax, where do and while are the keywords used in loop. Condition is where you set the condition which when satisfied the loop is executed. Otherwise, the loop is terminated. Block-of statements is the body of the loop that executed once and is executed again as long as the condition is met. Flow of execution of do-while loop. It starts with the initialization of variable which is executed only once, which is similar to the for loop. After which it executes the block of statements and then goes to the condition where it is evaluated whether or not it is true or false. If the condition is false, the do-while loop is terminated. If the condition is true, it executes the block of statements again. The increment, decrement is part of the block of statements, which when executed updates the loop counter, after which it goes back to the condition part where it is re-evaluated. Sample code fragment. The initial value of variable c is 0. It goes immediately to the block of statement within the loop which prints 0. It then increments the value of c where c becomes 1. It goes to the condition where c is evaluated. Since 1 is less than 3, it goes again to the block of statements within the while loop which prints 1 and increments against the value of c, where c now becomes 2. The condition is then re-evaluated, and since 2 is still less than 3, it goes again to the block of statements within the while loop which prints 2 and increments the value of c, where c now becomes 3. The condition is re-evaluated, and since 3 is not less than 3, the while loop is terminated. The output is 0, 1, 2. Nested do-while loop is a fragment code where do-while loop is within another do-while loop. Sample code. The initial value of variable c is set to 0. It goes immediately to the body of the outer loop where the value of the variables r is initialized to 0. And then another do-while loop is found. It goes immediately to the body of the inner loop where it prints the value of r which is 0 and increments the value of r which becomes 1. The condition of the inner loop is evaluated, and since r which is 1 is less than 2, it goes back to the block of statement within the inner loop which prints 1 and increments the value of r where r becomes 2. The condition of the inner loop is re-evaluated, and since r which is 2 is not less than 2, the inner loop is terminated. It then goes to the next statement just below the inner loop where it prints a new line and then increments the value of c. The value of c now becomes 1. The same process will follow until the condition is in the outer loop gets false. The output is 0, 1, 0, 1, 0, 1. Functions, C++ library functions, user-defined function. C++ library functions. A function is a block of statement that performs specific tasks, which can only be executed when in code. It's also known as a method or a subroutine or a procedure. C++ provides several predefined functions which are part of the standard library function of C++. Here are some of examples. User-defined functions allows you to create your own function to perform specific actions beside the predefined functions available in the standard library. The syntax is, where return type is the data type, the value of the function returns. When you want your function not to return a value, then use the keyword void as the return type. Function name is the name given to the function. Parameter lists one or more parameters where values are passed. A parameter consists of a type followed by an identifier. If there are more than one parameter, then each parameter is separated from the next by a comma. Parameters are, however, optional, which means as a function may contain no parameters. Block of statements are group of statements that define what the functions perform. Function with parameters but with no return values. The parameters are actually variables that are used to hold values of arguments passed while the function is called. Both parameters and argument must have the same data type to avoid errors. At line 14, the function getName is invoked and has an argument fName. An argument is a variable whose values is passed on the parameter. The input from the user that is stored in the fName is passed on to the parameter of function getName, which is fn. With this, fn now has a value equal to the value of fName. A sample output of the program is enter first name Ibes, hello Ibes. Function with parameters and return values. In the given program, the function getName has string type, which means that it returns a string value. At line 16, the function getName is invoked and has an argument fName. In this example, any input from the user that is stored in fName is passed on to the parameter of function getName, which is fn. With this, fn is now equal to the value of fName. In the body of the function getName, a string variable greet is declared. At line 7, the value of fn is concentrated with the string hello and is assigned to a variable greet. At line 8, the value of greet is returned. The control goes back to line 16 where the value of greet is displayed. A sample output of the program is enter first name Ibes, hello Ibes. Recursion is a function especially helpful when performing tasks repeatedly. The syntax is where my function is the recursive function that is called over and over again. Recursion is the function continues until the condition is met. When using recursive function, you have to make extra careful to avoid infinite recursion. This can be done using the if-else statement. Below is a popular example in recursive function that computes for the factorial of an input integer. Factorial means the product of all positive integers less than or equal to n. For example, the factorial of 5 is 1 times 2 times 3 times 4 times 5, which is equal to 120. The sample program has a recursive function which continues when n is greater than 1 and returns the computed value, otherwise it returns 1. The output of the program is enter a non-negative number. 5 factorial of 5 is 120.